Is Indian diplomacy on a back foot? Are we a Vishwa Guru? Have you sided with US? Let me ask you a very simple question. I'm not able to interpret that, what is our locus standi. We talk about strategic autonomy, we talk about being Vishwa Guru, we spoke about non-alignment, but do you see we are practicing that as a nation and as a government right now, or do you think we have taken sides?
The fundamental principle of any foreign policy is to serve its own national interests. If you become a part of an alliance, then you lose your autonomy. Who are now saying, oh no, we must align with the United States or Israel or XYZ. I said, look at their friends. What is happening to them? Do you want to be in Ukraine? But look at the United States. It is our great partner, comprehensive global strategic partner. Yet it does not leave a chance of dishing.
We are definitely on our side, but is it safe to say that Iran is a friend of ours? And in that case, is multipolarity is aspirational and not operational?
Well, I personally don't feel the multipolarity exists or will exist ever. This is my view. US is the only power today, is the hyperpower, despite the fact that whatever we may say about that. So this is Jungle Raj. There is no international law today.
So it's not as stupid as it may think, because it's something that the leaders are not able to identify or
they don't identify not because they don't know what it is.
They just don't have the guts to do it.
No, they just don't want to do it because terror groups are being used, they are propagated, they are produced by them.
There are two paradigms to it. One is a sovereignty, your internal matters, we will not interfere, right? The other is, as a diplomat, where do you draw the line that this is a sovereign line, this is an internal matter, I will not get into it? How much respect do you have for your counterparts in Pakistan? How serious do you think this offer of mediation from, Pakistan to resolve the war, as a diplomat that you see, how serious it is? Or is it just a tweet? Do you see this war, unfortunately, spiraling into a Ukraine-Russia war kind of a scenario?
I hope not. It will be far more disastrous,
For the world.
For the world.
Is Indian diplomacy on a back foot? Are we a Vishwa Guru? Have we sided with US? Are we controlled or are we compromised as far as international geopolitics is concerned? Well, these are the questions that a lot of people ask and a lot of people chatter goes on, especially with respect to the recent changes in geopolitics, especially since February end when Iran, US, Israel was started. I thought of clarifying this and asking this, and I could not think of a better name than Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, sir. So thank you very much for coming in. So you have served in the Middle East, you have seen the war-torn areas, you have seen how diplomacy has worked before, during and after the war. And I couldn't think of a better educator than you on this. So thanks for coming over.
So kind of you, Banas. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. So let me ask you a very simple question. I'm not able to interpret that, what is our locus standi. We talk about strategic autonomy. We talk about being Vishwa Guru. We spoke about non-alignment, but do you see we are practicing that as a nation and as a government right now, or do you think we have taken sides?
Well, at the outset, I want to tell the fundamental principle of any foreign policy is to serve its own national interest. And how do you serve your national interest depends on the situation around you. You have adversaries, you have enemies, and you have friends and you have frenemies. So all kinds of groups of countries are there, and there are some who don't care. But what India has been doing by virtue of its size, by virtue of its policies, and by virtue of its principled foreign policy, has continued on a path of a sane foreign policy, I would say, a balanced foreign policy. That means when we talk of a strategic autonomy, it does not mean that we are just sitting and watching. It means we are looking at the situation in a dispassionate manner. How it is going to impact on us, then we take the action accordingly. Likewise, when you add strategic autonomy with multi-alignment, means we are not hostage to a relationship. So, in principle, the foreign policy can be defined in three ways, as I call 3Ds: dialogue, diplomacy, and dehyphenation. These are very important because my relationship, for example, with Israel could be a strategic partnership, a very dependable relationship in terms of security dimension. But then my relationship with Saudi Arabia, with UAE, with Iran also stands on its own and simultaneously. So sometimes it may appear to the outsiders that I'm being partial to one or the other. It's natural also. It depends on the intensity of engagement. It is not something that, I mean, some countries, somehow you tend to, club it so quickly, your interactions, that it appears as if you are damn close to the person. But then the next moment you are also talking to the other. Then India is also have become, to a great extent, I would say, a global player in many ways. Because you are counted in every, I would say, discourse that happens, somewhere or the other. It impacts because of the heft of India. Its economic heft, its population, being the largest democracy, and being a country which speaks its mind. Of course, it is not always that easy. It's a very difficult path. As you know that in 1950s when we started non-alignment, it was the same thing. There were world was divided into two blocks. And very similar kind of a scenario is likely to play out soon. But India has maintained that this is our position and will not just, because if you become a part of an alliance, then you lose your autonomy completely. You go ahead with whatever is this. And I also tell many of my friends who are now saying, oh, no, we must align with the United States or Israel or XYZ. I said, look at their friends. What is happening to them? Do you want to be in Ukraine once you ally? So now today, the result of this thing, now we are talking in the context of Iran-Israel-US war, which is happening. Unfortunately or fortunately, all three of them are our strategic partners, and are important partners, each one of them in their own way. But look at the United States. It is our great partner, comprehensive global strategic partner, yet it does not leave a chance of dissing you. Whenever it can, it does. We have been chosen especially for the highest tariffs, despite being great friends with them. Israel, for example, remains our very strategic partner, defense and security partner. But being a strategic partner, it attacked Qatar a few months ago, you remember, and under the garb of Hamas or whatever.
Yeah.
And that led to another strategic partner of ours, that is Saudi Arabia, going and signing a defense agreement with Pakistan. So it is not something that you can. So you have to look at the things in a totality, in my view. So we take decisions which are in our best interest. As far as the Middle East is concerned, it is existential for us. The whole of Middle East, not A country or B country. So India's basic objective and aim has been that there should be a stability and security in the place. We have 10 million Indians whose security, whose welfare is of utmost importance to us. They are remitting about $70 billion to India, which is about 1/10 of your foreign exchange.
True.
And it stays here. It's not something hot money like rest of the NRIs.
It's not an FII flow,
Yes.
or it is
It
real
stays
money
there.
out here.
It's a hard-earned money by the people. You have all sea lanes of communications. Your 80-85% trade depends on that. So if they get blocked, you have a problem. Your energy security, at least half of it is coming from there. Gas, much more so. Despite the fact that we have diversified to 40 countries, we are still dependent because they're the closest to us. Just 2.5 hours away from here. So you have to continue to remain. Then you have invested huge amount of money in these countries. India alone has invested more than, I think, $70-80 billion in UAE alone, where you have 4.4 million Indians. So it is something that we have to see what is our interest. Today, my interest is how would I protect my people there? And I cannot do it if I take sides, number one. Or we did, of course, as somebody asked, I think Prime Minister Modi or Jaishankar, or I don't know, he said, whose side are you on? We are on India's side. I mean, that's simple.
Ambassador, sir, with your permission, can I be direct?
Yes, please.
We are definitely on our side, but is it safe to say that Iran is a friend of ours?
It is a friend of ours.
Do you think, in that case, condoning the death of the head of the state of a friendly state should take 4 days for us?
Well, like you call him head of state, he's a religious, say he's not a president. President of a country is a different person. Okay? That's a head of state. He's the religious, and this is a theocracy in the country. The fact is, I personally feel that we should have condoled the death. Right? Condemning or something is a different thing that you can take your time. But I was quite sure that in case they had the funeral for him, India would have been represented. But as soon as they opened the condolence book, we sent our foreign secretary to go and sign it. And you have seen the Iranians understand that. It's not that they are holding it against you.
So, I would like to dwell on it a bit. Now, if you look at it, I agree with you. Condemnation is maybe taking a side, but condole is absolutely
Yes,
fine.
we should have condoled it.
Now, just look at the example. When 7th of October happened, our Prime Minister was perhaps the first leader of any state to tweet and express solidarity with Israel, which is a fantastic thing to do, in my opinion, right? For the dastardly that happened. Now, out here, we are waiting for 4 days for the book to open, and there has not been any official statement, correct me if I'm wrong, for those 4 days. My simple question is, why it took us 4 days? And you are right that I stand corrected that he may not be the head of the state, but let's be honest about it. In all practical purpose, he was the man in charge.
Well, I agree. Just the fact remains is that there is a difference in this whole thing. India believes in zero tolerance to terrorism. And we do not wish to distinguish between terrorism of one kind or the other, one place or the other. It is not that. What happened in Israel at the time by Hamas,
Yes, sir.
and we don't deal with Hamas, we don't recognize them, was a terror act. And it was the terrorism which was condemned by India, not that things happen to A or B or B. Same way that the Israelis have always been standing with us.
True.
That's the only country during the Pahalgam attack, the Op Sindoor, stood with you firmly. This is the same country which in 65 war, 1971 war, even though it was part of the US spectrum, much against the wishes of the United States of the time, they supported us. They provided us arms, ammunition and equipment. That was not done before. They are the ones who knew very well that a nuclear Pakistan would be dangerous for them.
You've written an article on this,
Yes,
right, sir?
I have. This is a fact actually.
Yeah, where they had proposed that we'll go and
Kahuta,
attack Kahuta.
they wanted to attack it, and they only wanted us because we didn't have full diplomatic relations. So they wanted us to provide
the base.
them
Logistic
just
support.
refueling.
Yeah, refueling.
That's
yeah.
all in Mumbai. But we didn't agree with that at the time of the government. So this takes time. Then during this period, they sent their teams during the Op Sindoor. They tried to continue to work with us. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to recognize that. That is something that, which other country, I mean the whole world is talking against terrorism, but when the question of terrorism comes, none of them stands against it.
So I'm fully with you that, terrorism is not of different kinds. Terrorism
Yeah.
is terrorism. I'm with you on that. Again, I am point. If our diplomacy is dehyphenated, right, when we don't link the two, condoling a death 4 days,
No, I'm saying we could have done it.
we could have done it earlier.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
The condoling is no problem. I mean, I did it on the TV myself. I said no, because see, anybody in the first place, this is, and what India did was, we issued a statement the second day. I don't know if you've seen that. Foreign Ministry's statement was very clear, in which we called for peace again. We condemned the, we said that respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty must be there. Who was it against? It was against United States and Israel. They are the ones who attacked Iran. It was not vice versa. But then it was also against Iran because it went and attacked all the 6 countries in the Gulf.
That came later on.
No, in 48
Eventually,
hours.
in 48 days, yeah.
in 24 hours, the Iranians attacked actually. This time they were ready. They've been talking about it all along. So, the position, you have to take a position. And the position is that the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries must be respected.
So just couple of hours or days before the attack took place, Prime Minister Modi was there with Prime Minister Netanyahu, right? Do you think, and we say that we have a strategic relationship with Israel, they've been always very close to us and so on. Do you think that we had an idea about it?
Firstly, I don't think that anybody knew that it will happen, and Israelis have gone on record. I mean, their ambassador has
Absolutely.
been talking about it, that's not there. But at the same time, if you are watching the region, and you know the way the Americans behave, the way the Israelis have been behaving, the way the Iranians have been behaving, they suffer from this mutually assured destruction syndrome, MAD syndrome, since last 40 years. They've been wanting to decimate one another forever. But this has been kept under the cover. But in June, that lid blew off when Israelis attacked, and the
June.
Americans also came into attack.
Right.
But that was a managed conflict, because Americans also allowed Iran to attack their biggest base in Qatar. Right. So that was done. When it happened, 6 rounds of negotiations. So if you are really watching it closely and you understand the region, you know that this is very likely to happen again. Because why? The thing is that Israel does not want any agreement which will dilute its position in the region vis-a-vis Iran. It happened when 2014, 15, 13, when Obama administration's time this was going on. Both Saudi Arabia and Israel were against it, dead against this. But they couldn't do much because Obama administration didn't care about Israel much. Trump is very much friendly with him, agreeing, and even attacked this one. As Rubio said himself, that the Israelis were determined to attack, and therefore we had to go along.
Americans
This
were
was
forced.
later on, whatever it is, colored up, but I think that this was the situation. So if you are a keen watcher of the region, you will understand this could happen anytime. Coming to Prime Minister's visit, you see, Israel is a friend. Netanyahu has been wanting to come, twice his visit was cancelled. Prime Minister Modi would have gone. I am not privy to what would have been discussed, what not discussed. At the same time, I'm quite sure that if he had any inkling, he would have told Netanyahu not to do it.
So
But-
sorry.
But we don't have a handle. The only country that has some handle over Netanyahu, not Israel, Netanyahu, is United States.
So look at it this way. If he knew about it, assuming.
No, we may not know.
Okay,
We
let's
must
start
just-
with the assumption that we did not know about it, which is fair. You know, then in that case, we are definitely not a strategic partner or an ear or a friend to Israel the way it comes out to be in the at least the photo ops. Now, I'm coming to the fact. Do you think that Prime Minister's photo, which was circulated with Netanyahu when the war broke out, that was not a publicity, or that was that was something not required and shouldn't have happened?
Well, it was not us, it was the Israelis. I mean, they have been trying to take advantage of it. Everywhere he went and he said, India stands with us, Modi is my friend, this, that. So, he's using it for his own purpose, because see, he has very few friends in the world. And he's doing it. But as far as we are concerned, I mean, we dependent on, I shouldn't be talking about everything, but then there is such a deep-seated security partnership between India and Israel, which is very critical for us as well. That's very important.
So again,
You can't be, simply unreal about your reality. This is what I'm trying to say. You have to look at what is your interest. They go ahead in front of the Americans and provide you whatever you need. That's only one country. So you can't be just for somebody else just because this thing happened. And we know it, that they have been fighting forever and they will do it. We have been against this kind of a thing, escalation, for the simple reason that what is happening today was always feared for last 40 years. Until now, the Americans were not on board with the direct fight between the Iranians and Israelis. Under Trump, that has changed. And that is why we are seeing what we are looking at today. There were covert operations, there were killing of scientists, doing this, that. Everybody knew who's doing it.
correct.
But at the same time, it did not reach that level. It was mostly underground, mostly covert operations that have been played out. So we knew it.
So now here I want to know. You're saying when you observe things from a distance, you knew that something's going to happen like that, right?
Yes.
But if you look at it, just hours before, there were talks were going on in terms of where Oman was mediating, right, to finding the resolution to a problem. Now, let's step outside just the Indian context and look at it from Iran's perspective. Now here is a country which is talking, and where probably the imbroglio was going to get broken, and the next day you bombard them, right? In this kind of an extreme fluctuation, if I may say, of the relationships, are you still able to decipher, and did you still foresee, or you think our intelligence knew that this was going to happen, and the talks are going to
No, no,
fail?
intelligence doesn't know any these things. These things happen. What I'm telling you is that as a analyst, as an observer, it is different than having hardcore intelligence. Americans, Israelis are always prepared for a fight. They're fighting 6-7 countries today simultaneously for last 2.5 years. For them, their survival depends on strong offensive capability. And they don't hesitate to, because they think that if they don't, then they will be hit. That is their ideology, that is their military ideology, and they continue to work with that. So far, they think successfully, but I think it's been very stupid for them, because they have increased more and more uncertainty and security for the people. That we are seeing it also. They've suffered as well. As far as Iran is concerned, it's also equally prepared. When they talk about death to America, death to Israel, that's what is it? The other countries are not going to take you lightly in that. That means it might be, even if it is something that you are saying just for the heck of it, or because of ideological differences, the other side will understand that, yes, this is what they mean, and prepare accordingly. So this is what happens. So if you are really watching the region, then you know that this is a most volatile region. The maximum number of hotspots are there. And if Iran has in the meantime developed these proxies, so-called, whether it is Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Kataib Hezbollah, now they are the ones who have provided us an asymmetric advantage. Otherwise, as you know, the United States is 7,000-8,000 kilometers from Iran. True. And 1,200 kilometers is Israel from Iran. They don't share borders, they don't threaten each other directly. They're nothing. But because they think that Iran is the fountain of all these problems, that's why Israelis and the Americans continue to do so.
So, during the conversation, you mentioned that, India has a heft, and India, we have a clout, and we also claim our sphere of influence as far as Indian Ocean region is concerned. I'm coming to the IRS Dana betrayal incident. We hosted, and American sank. Where is the heft, and where is the cloud that we talk about?
There are two things. One thing is that you have to see the behavior of the Americans. Secondly, we have conducted these Milan exercises.
Yes, sir.
32 countries, I think, navies were participating in this. The Iranian Navy, after participating, was returning. It was out of our waters. It was not the Indian waters.
Correct.
It was the international waters. Now, that's where we don't have a control. It's not our responsibility to escort the ships to their port. America and Iran are at war. Now, legally you may say that it was a violation of the international law, that this was an armed ship or whatever it is. But that was between them. So, in the meantime, while that Dana ship was sunk by the Navy, only thing is related to this question is another dimension to it, which I'll just tell you.
Sure.
But the fact is that the moment the Iranians, other two ships which were there, out of the three, asked for India to provide them the berthing, we immediately did that. And they were escorted to Kochi. And thereafter, India also helped in Sri Lanka, sending these bodies back of the sailors, whatever was available. From there, 70, 80 sailors we sent back to Iran. So, from our part, it has optics which are definitely not right. But Iranians understood that. That it is not India's fault. From India's perspective, you have to see that having a friendship with the United States can also backfire on you sometimes in the international domain. And that is what I think that our establishment will be looking at very carefully. Publicly, whatever it is there, we are not in the wrong ourselves. But who is in the wrong, everybody knows.
Sir, very rightly said, exactly from an India perspective. Because, if I see certain statements, Brahmachalani said that it's a strategic embarrassment. Admiral Arun Prakash said it's treachery. Now, if I
It's
draw
what? Treachery.
yeah, now if I draw two parallels, there is a very lot of experts have said it on various forms of media that today the war which is happening is basically whatever happened in Venezuela, whatever is happening in the Middle East. In a way, it is a messaging to China, right, from US. That's, and if I draw a parallel from there, because China was something that who said that we are growing and we are going to be the next. It could be it was a competition to US, right, and US is here to prove that no, we are still numero uno, right? So there's some messaging that we'll choke your supply lines. On the other hand, is it fair to assume that this Iris Dena incident that has happened is a message to India also that you may claim yourself to be a Vishwa Guru, you may claim sphere of influence, but we really don't pay much attention and importance to that.
Well, I wouldn't put it that crassly, because this is not really a message to India. But even if it is not a message, we need to understand it in that language, frankly. Because there is a lesson in all activities that are happening there for improving our own strengths, right? Whether it is our intelligence, whether it is our maritime coordination, whether it is to find other alternate ways of doing it, or beefing up our own navy, naval assets. So there is a signal in that sense. Not messaging directly maybe for you. It was just done to because United States, one objective was also to demolish the Iranian navy completely, which they have achieved too significantly, right? So this was part of that design. Not necessarily to tell India, okay, brother, you just mind your business or something like this. Not that. We have agreements with them, which is called LEMUA, with the Americas, 4 foundational agreements we have signed, in which we have provided them facilities that are, in the case of wars or something, to come on our, ports, and we'll provide assistance to them. Basically, logistical assistance. Now, those are the things that we'll have to tweak. Under what circumstances? Because this is not one of those circumstances that was desirable from our security perspective. So that's precisely the case. So there is a learning, there may not be a message, but if I was an intelligence officer, or if I was a person who was formulating my policy, I will definitely take into account.
So you've called India, you proposed this idea of India being an interlocutor, right? I read it and I saw it in one of your messages, right? Now, do you think after this incident, Iran will trust India's credibility of being an interlocutor?
I don't know. You have to see the language coming from the Iranians. They are saying that India is the only country that can talk to everybody. Their ambassador yesterday, after meeting Jaishankar, he clearly said, you may have seen his statement. Now, if he's saying so, his foreign minister is saying so, Prime Minister Modi is talking to President Pezeshkian, and he's talking to all the others, including Israeli. Now, which other country has that kind of possibility of talking to all sides? Just tell me one.
So so there are two ways to look at it. There's always a absolute scale, there's a relative scale, right? Now in this case, I could be topping in my class, but my percentages could be 70. Now in case, do you think on a relative scale we are number one, or as a diplomat you feel that on an absolute scale also we have really hit the ceiling in terms of...
No, the thing is that you have to look at it this way. Everywhere you have to find an optimal solution, and you have to see what cards you have and how much heft you have with those countries. As I said in the beginning, that as far as Israel is concerned, it is the only country that can really make them come to the table or stop in their tracks is United States, no other country, because they depend heavily on US for their security. That's why, not for love for America or something like that. And Netanyahu always telling President Trump, my great friend, this, that, and all, we blindly, everything goes on. Iranians understand that India will not take a side. India will directly talk about it. Then we are also the chair of the BRICS this year. And Iran is a BRICS country, UAE is a BRICS country, Saudi Arabia is also in that. So that also brings another dimension to it. And that's why they are asking India that, okay, as a BRICS chair, you must try to do something also. So we are doing bilaterally, we are doing trilaterally, we are doing regionally. So that is something that we need to have a look at it. But I say not a mediator, because if you are a mediator, then you should have that kind of punching power also at the same time. If you don't listen to me, I'm going to fix you, man. That's not there. What is there is that trying to, okay, this is your problem, man, this is your problem. How can we solve that problem? That is something that is required, provided both sides agree to it. And both sides have said, yes, Israelis have said India is the only country we can talk to. When I had written an article in the Israel-Gaza war, I think you may have read that. That time I suggested that 3 or 4 countries should be there. Then I was approached by one of their senior fellows, and he said, all these 3 you cut out. India is the only country we will allow to talk about this, or we will listen to them. So this is why I'm saying is that you see that United States will talk to Iran and tell them no. Russia, no. Again taken side. China, no. Which are the other countries? Middle East, no. So which country is talking to both sides at the same level? It's only India which has that. So you are respected in that sense and you have that power. That's why Modi ji is talking to all these leaders 2 to 3 times. Not only just for our own interest, because see, if the war goes beyond a threshold, it will be disastrous for us also. So it's in our own interest to try and contribute to stopping this war. That's what precisely India is trying to do.
So you mentioned about BRICS. Among the founding members of BRICS, there's one country which has issued a statement of deep concern and not condemned the US-Israel strikes, and which is India. The rest have,
US-Israel strikes?
Yeah, on Iran. So we have given issued a statement of deep concern. Now I want to understand first, is that different from condemnation in terms of degree? And if it is different, then why, especially if the Middle East is so strategic to us for our own needs, why for our own needs we have not condemned it, and rather than just given a deep concern?
If I ask you something, you tell me that if I say, okay, I condemn the United States or Israel for this attack, am I going to achieve anything? Except semantics. Please tell me any substantive thing you will get.
So,
you will close that door that is open to you to mediate, to interlocute, to send some signals to that.
Yeah.
You have taken a side. We don't want to take a side. The idea is that now this war is going on. This is from the day one. Now you see the statement, 2 statements came from government, and they're very well calibrated statements, in which the key thing was that we said it, that who attacked Iran. So we condemn this kind of a thing. But at the same time, we also don't like this, what Iran is doing against the Gulf countries. So you understand, our situation is not, we are not a distant country. This is our extended neighborhood, what is happening there. Now, if the war goes on further and you don't have any say in it, how will you go and extract the people? Now, tomorrow you will have to take out people from Israel. You have to take out people from UAE, from Saudi Arabia, from Iran. 900,000, more than 1,000 people came out of Iran despite this war with the help of the Iranian government. They are allowing your ships to come in. India is the one country out of the 4 which is there very much. They are allowing your ships. Iranians are allowing, no? So, I think that we have to look at the whole stock of the situation. Not in a periodic sense that if we had condemned. I mean, I sometimes say, okay, we can condemn, then what?
So I'm absolutely aligned to this practical realities, and that's where my next question is. Then in that case, is multipolarity is aspirational and not operational?
Well, I personally don't feel the multipolarity exists or will exist ever. This is my view. Everybody is
That's
chasing
coming from
the
a
dream.
diplomat, sir.
Yeah, everybody is chasing the dream.
Okay.
Why? I look at it. I am looking at it, the global churn which is taking place right now. Eventually, this will become a Cold War 2.0, which means there will be a China-centric and there will be a US-centric, whatever the world there is. Russia might align with China more. That will not be necessarily like the Cold War 1.0, when there was no multipolarity in that sense. But that time, it was all together, political, economic, everything. This time, you will have poles two poles which will be competing with each other on geopolitical and geotechnological manner. But geoeconomically, you will have many countries and powers like India, like others, which are the center of economic power. Those will be very much there. Our job as India is to align those countries and make them into a different grouping which will have its own heft. So I have a different view on this. Everybody talks about what multipolarity? I mean, what are we talking about? Who cares? I mean, America goes and attacks everybody. Nobody cares. Russia goes and attacks anyone. China does whatever it wants. So, multipolarity is when you can stand up and say, no, it's thus far and no further. Nobody has that kind of a capacity to confront. US is the only power today, is the hyperpower, despite the fact that whatever we may say about that. So, this is Jungle Raj. There is no international law today. So, when it is not there, then what kind of multipolarity are we talking about? Multipolarity without multipolar institution. Do you think United Nations has any heft?
So I was coming to that. In fact, in the last previous podcast, I had asked you about the relevance of United Nations.
Yeah.
And if you see this entire, I mean, I don't see, United Nations is just missing.
Look at the Board of Peace that Trump suggested for Gaza.
जिसमें पाकिस्तान भी
नहीं,
wanted
पाकिस्तान
to be
ठीक
a
है.
part, right?
13 countries, 2 countries, China and Russia abstained. What have they said, the Security Council resolution? That Trump's proposal for having a Board of Peace has been approved by United Nations Security Council because that provides some countries the cover to send their forces.
When 2 Security Council members have
Abstained.
abstained.
They had veto, but they abstained. So you
because Trump has said it has to get approved.
So it is the Trump's body, basically. So that shows you the what kind of action the United Nations is able to take. But don't blame the United Nations. Yeah? After all, the United Nations is a body which has people in that, countries in that. If the countries don't want it to function, it will not function.
Sir, may I beg to differ with you?
Yeah,
on that?
please do.
You know, I totally understand that, United Nations is a body of nations, but there's something called a statesmanship from the Secretary General.
What will he do?
I
Poor
mean,
fellow
at
has
least-
been... Israel bans his entry into the country. And he is a member of the United Nations. What are you saying? I mean, UN organizations are not being allowed to operate in the countries under the guard.
He was locked in Egypt also, right, sir?
Yeah,
Obviously,
they
it's
say
not a big
bomb the United Nations and nothing happens. What? I mean, why I'm saying so? Who's saying that? It's the members. At the end of the day, the United Nations is not some esoteric body. It is something that has been made by the countries so that there is a rule of law, that there is some kind of a stability and security in the global domain, that there is a place you can talk to, that the Security Council will behave in a more responsible manner than parochial manner, which is what they're doing it today. UN Security Council is divided into G3 versus G2.
Sir, how many Gs are there, by the way? I mean, because there was G20, there was G7, G8, now we're talking about G2, G3.
No, G2 is China, Russia. G3 is the France, US and Britain.
Sir, is it not romanticism to just make an elitist club every time? It's like
President Trump wants G2 only. You have seen it. He has said himself with China. He prefers that kind of thing. He's going to China in May.
So, sir,
So, I mean, you see, it's the game of the powerful, like the rich man.
so where's diplomacy and where is
Diplomacy
civilization?
Despite that, you try to extract the maximum mileage for yourself. That's the diplomacy is all about. Try to keep, you see, it's in our interest that the peace prevails. So, 99% of the countries want the same thing what we want. It's only a few who are, because of whom the situation is the way it is today. And we know all of them.
So it reminds me of a typical...
The biggest bane, my friend, of the United Nations, I'm sorry, the Security Council is the P5 countries.
Can you elaborate that, sir?
Yeah, I mean, they are the ones who don't allow anything to function.
The Security Council.
Security Council members, permanent 5.
And sir, if
Veto wielding powers.
basically who are allied powers. I mean, if you look at it from the World War II, the allied countries, by and large,
Yeah.
with an exception of China and Russia.
Yeah. No, allied powers, you see, they, at that time, I mean, if you see the leaders at that time, they had ideals. They wanted, okay, now we have seen 50 million people dead. We have seen the disaster happening. It should not happen again. But in last 80 years, The same countries have undermined the whole so-called international law.
They are the biggest violators.
So, you don't listen to International Court of Justice, you don't listen to International Criminal Court, you don't listen to World Trade Organization, you don't. So what do you listen to? So, it is a place where every country can go and speak its mind. That is there. Despite that, everybody equally has one vote each, but that vote should count.
So isn't United
So
Nations...
reforms of the United Nations is extremely important, and it is not happening again because of the same P5 countries.
So sorry if I may say this, but is it right to say United Nations has become like an old Gymkhana club? People going, spending
I'm
time...
not a member of Gymkhana Club.
Okay.
So don't ask me.
You always have a perfect answer to any such question, sir. So let me ask you something. Can you define what's terrorism? Because there's always a question and there's always a debate. One man's terrorist is the other man's freedom fighter. So in absolute way, what is terrorism? Because we denounce any kind of terrorism.
No,
So what is
the
terrorism?
thing is, the terrorism is what? There is something called a genuine grievance of the people. But the moment they resort to violence against innocent civilians, then it becomes terrorism.
Okay.
That's the definition. I mean, what is wrong with it? I mean, you can protest, you can do whatever you want to. You do against the system, fight against the system in legitimate manner. But the moment you start, attacking people, innocent people, civilians are dying for whatever reason, I mean, that is terrorism. And now it's become an industry. The countries like Pakistan, which are like, for them, an instrument of foreign policy. It's a low-cost option for them. So as long as you don't make it a costly option for them, like we did in Op Sindhu, they are going to continue to resort to it. And it's unfortunate, and I must compliment PM Modi in this, frankly. One leader who stood up in United Nations and expressed his disdain. He said, so far, international community has not been able to agree to a single definition of terrorism. So what question you are asking is exactly the same.
So it's not as stupid as it may think,
No,
because
it's not.
it's something that the leaders are not able to identify or
They don't identify
that.
not because they don't know what it is.
they just don't have the guts to do it.
No, they just don't want to do it because they can use these things. Terror groups are being used, they are propagated, they are produced by them as an instrument of their foreign policy.
So you have always written about India's moral authority in international affairs of decades,
Correct,
right?
absolutely.
And you just mentioned that, and if I understand it rightly, terrorism is basically act against, in a sense, unarmed people who voice their dissent or, differences. Let's put it this way. Is that the right definition?
Yeah, there are many ways of, frankly, expressing your disconcert with the system or like your unhappiness about a situation, achieving your goals, whatever you want to. But then, it causes a complete destabilization in the thing. And then non-state actors have become so very violent and that they have become parallel governments.
No, so here again I wanted to ask you about India's stand. This was on 23rd January that there was, where I think there was a January 23rd vote happened in United Nations, where India did not object or abstained from condemning or from taking a stand against Iran killing its own civilian population. The numbers are anywhere between 7,000 to 30,000.
You see, you have to understand one thing. And we also have our ambassadors there, right? And who send us reports as well.
So,
Now, in Iran, what was happening is people are unhappy because of the economic situation. They were dissatisfied with the regime's non-performance or repression. They have had their problems. They started going for their own, protest against it. But those protests, we could see very well, were also being promoted by external actors. And that's when the problem happened, that's when the state, you see, you cannot be simply watching when somebody goes violent. When you start killing a policeman, you can't expect a policeman to stand and watch. That's how the violence happened. Then figures are something that can be disputed by both sides. Americans will call it 30,000, next day call 40,000, or Israelis will say more. Till today they are saying the same thing. They said we have to create an internal revolt in the country. So to that kind of a situation, I think it is not, nor do we like or nor we want that to happen.
But sir, the fact is, the numbers can be debated. I'm
Right.
saying even if there was like not about 7,000, there could be maybe 1,000 protesters out there.
Yeah.
If they are unarmed, they are civilians, and they have a dissent against policies of a government, and a government is killing them, right? We objected to that. We voted against the United Nations Human Rights Council resolution. Now, in that case, is it not departure from right to protection?
You see, I mean, you look at India, in the UN Security Human Rights Council, every now and then they come up with something against India, like in the name of minorities and
Sir,
something like that.
Who comes?
In various countries.
Various countries. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
this comes up.
Correct, sir.
Right. So our position has been very clear that every country has its own socio-economic conditions, and under which these things happen. Unless there is a genocide, now you are not looking at the genocide which is happening elsewhere, but you are looking at some problem that is happening in a country, particularly because of political reasons. So that is something that is what we don't succumb to, frankly. Second thing is, I mean, like if you condemn again, what is the position? The Human Rights Council is also a highly politicized body, right? The same thing is reflected everywhere. It is not that the Iranians should not take care of their own people. They should. It's not that the government should go and kill everybody. They cannot, and they cannot survive. I mean, this is also true. Repression beyond a point is something that is not done, or nor it will be possible to do or sustain. And Iranians have realized that. If this war had not happened, which is happening now, it would have been very difficult, in my view, for the Ayatollahs to survive domestically. But today, the whole country is virtually united.
And the same people say for Netanyahu also, right? Had
Netanyahu
7,000
is riding on a lion. He knows that the moment he goes down, he'll be arrested. He has corruption cases. So he has his own problems. So for him, continuing in the war is also an incentive.
But sir, here are two paradigms to it. One is a sovereignty, your internal matters, we will not interfere, right? The other is your morality, your beliefs, something that you profess. As a diplomat, where do you draw the line that this is a sovereign line, this is an internal matter, I will not get into it? I'm coming to the point, look at it from India's context only. When 370 abrogation happened, and the Iranian regime was always very vocal about supporting or against government's policies as far as Kashmir is concerned. So that is where the ideology or their morality superseded the laws of not interfering between the internal politics. Whereas now in this case,
and that has been an issue with them that we have. We have also condemned that, their intervention in India.
So we have condemned that, yes. But now here is it was a payback time for us.
No, I mean, I don't think that it was not a payback time. I mean, like they are thinking from the point of view, because Ayatollah thought himself to be a leader of the Muslim world, right?
The Shiites.
Shiites also, as well as the whole. I mean, that's the competition that is going on
Right.
between them. And in that context, and so we condemn their intervention, I mean, in our internal affairs. So that's we do always. Whether it is the Islamic Council or others, OIC and everybody else, because they are politically motivated. They are not genuine things. So, and it's removal or abrogation of Article 370 is absolutely in our discussion. What does it have to do with Ayatollah or anybody else? Why should you tolerate that from anybody?
Absolutely, sir. I'm with you.
But then if I go and tell them, okay, what are you doing is wrong,
you don't think we
Right.
should have done that?
Yeah. Makes no sense. Then tomorrow again you are giving everybody the hand, basically, that okay, what are you doing, man? Why are you controlling this crowd? Why are you doing anything? So every country will have a right to tell you
So
that.
we are playing it down.
We are not playing down. We are just watching the situation. And as I'm telling you is, if those were genuine protests, and the Iranians have been accepting it, and if you see the Iranian government's reaction was very calibrated. They allowed people to come on the streets, say what they want to. They wanted to take remedial measures. They did take remedial measures. But then, these kind of movements, as you know, are not sui generis very often. I have seen what happened in Libya myself. So I can tell you that these are built upon by many people.
I will come to that, sir, because we'll not leave you before getting educated a bit on your experience on Libya. So
Yeah.
I'll come to that in a while. So I would like to quote now as the next time the verbatim of what President Trump has said. We are going to have to choose that person along with Iran. The person being openly discussed in Washington and Tel Aviv is Reza Pahlavi, the Shah's son. Now, if you go back to the Shah's regime point, no matter what the Western media may say about liberal and so on, so on, so on, the fact is that the Khamenei regime has built good relations with India. We have invested for 40 odd years. Do you see a risk that if we go to Reza Pahlavi's time, our investments and our equations are in danger?
Well, I don't think it's in danger because hypothetically, if he comes in, I doubt very much though. Because his father, although ruled for 25 years, but he was able to rule exactly the same kind of a repression that happens under the Ayatollahs or anybody else. But relations during his time was also not that great with India, as we know, during Shah's time. So when this, suppose hypothetically the new Shah is superimposed on Iran, whether Iranians will want it fully? No, I doubt very much. It will be not easy for him to rule, number one. Number two, in the international domain, I don't think the Arab countries also are very fond of him. Nor are the Iranians, the Israelis. Indians, of course, I don't think that there will be that kind of relationship that you will expect. Because whatever you may say, the Khomeini, the first one, had India connection. His grandfather was Indian.
Correct.
He held India in great esteem. You have seen recently one of their leaders was here, and the kind of statements coming from there. Their president talking about India. So there is a definitely, in the current system, we don't know how he'll be. Maybe he'll become more pragmatic. Because at the end of the day, India is an economic giant, going to be an economic giant. So most countries will like to have good relations with us.
So you mentioned about what Khomeinis have done, and of course, Chabar is what they supported us on. They supported us India's SEO membership. I wanted to come to another body, SEO. Again, sitting very silent about it. What is the relevance of such bodies, sir, especially if they are not able to have a unified voice?
No, they condemned actually. SEO condemned. Yeah, they issued a statement. A statement from BRICS is a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Because that was a security organization, if you see. But BRICS is different because, see, BRICS, both the members, it's between the two member states. Iran and UAE and Saudi Arabia, they are being attacked and fighting with each other. This is also a big problem. So that's why the UAE and others are not agreeable to a statement, of any kind of support to Iran in that. And so whether if there are two members fighting with one another, it becomes increasingly difficult to bring about some kind of a thing. What India has done is that exactly the same kind of a statement will come out, which says that sovereignty should not be violated, territorial integrity should not be violated, and all that. That's it.
The old jargon works, sir.
Yeah, it has to be. That's the only way to coexist,
So, on a lighter but yet a very serious note, I wanted to ask you, how much respect do you have for your counterparts in Pakistan? They are very good in Twitter diplomacy, sir, off lately.
You see, I'll say something. Pakistanis as they say there, is the military has a state. So they are very suave, they are intelligent, they are also the same stock as us. So I would not say that they are I have found very intelligent, very professional diplomats from Pakistan also. But at the same time, the kind of things that they have to defend is not that easy. In private conversations, how can you defend terrorism as an instrument of your foreign policy?
They have a tougher job than an Indian diplomat, sir?
Of course. We are mostly what we are inside, outside. Same. We say the same thing. We come from a position of some kind of principles. Not this thing, but they have their own thing. But let me also add, which may not be very much to the liking of others, but this is a fact. And that is that the Pakistanis have this very uncanny ability to encash their nuisance value
Yes, sir.
with all the powers.
I'm totally in agreement with you. In fact, we spoke about it last time.
And it happens because why? Because, again, I think it is because of their military being in the forefront. So you talk to the Americans are talking, President Trump, he doesn't talk about
Shabazz Sharif.
Shehbaz Sharif or anybody else. He's my
Munir.
general, favorite general or whatever it is,
Field Marshal Munir.
field marshal. So because he can promise the moon to him and still get away with it. And Pakistan, army controls 2/3 of their economy also. So rest everybody is just, they are there.
So is it the military in Pakistan, or is it also because of the geographical location of Pakistan that it's very, very important?
Of course, that's how they knew. Afghanistan and all these issues. So they are a good strategic geography, and they do it.
So you're professional in your opinion about their diplomats, and I respect that. And I wanted to ask you that, though it's not a diplomat, it's Shehbaz Sharif has tweeted that. How serious do you think this offer of mediation from Pakistan to resolve the war, as a diplomat that you see, how serious it is, or is it just a tweet?
No. I think that there was a message was transferred through Pakistan to Iran. They received from Pakistanis. Pakistan and Iran have a border also, as you know. I mean, until 47, it was the direct border with Iran we had. But now Pakistan has the border. So they have their own relationship with them. Then they are close to Americans as well. So as far as Saudi Arabia, they have a mutual defense agreement. Right. So it is in Pakistan's interest that this war does not proceed, because otherwise they will have to take side with Saudi Arabia. They'll have no other option. And Iranians will also hit them from here. So I think that they are trying to save their skin.
But sir, are they friends with Iran? Because we saw a couple of quarters back.
They were attacking each other on the Baloch incident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have Shiite Iran, we have we have Sunni Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi Arabia and Pakistan has a pact of protecting each other. I don't know when that will actually see the implementation. That's a different thing. Now, in that case, is Pakistan having heft enough and relationship enough with Iran, to really be in a position to offer such a proposition? Or again, I said that it's a casual remark.
No, I don't think it is a casual remark. They definitely, it provides them that kind of importance that they always seek for themselves. If you do not forget that during Nixon era, it was the Pakistanis, they were the conduit for the US-China talks. So it's not something just, but they are up for grabs for anybody, as they say, they are available. It's a rentier estate. So, I mean, like you can rent my hall and hold an exhibition. It's fine.
So that's a very dignified way of putting it, and I couldn't have asked for a better phrase, that they are a rentier state. I'll leave Pakistan's credibility and threat of diplomacy there itself. Now, where's the world headed, sir? Are we kowtowing to US? Or this is a multipolarity defining moment? And I'm saying that with a point because the couple of articles which I read, and it said India's Iran blind spot, a litmus test for strategic autonomy, was an article published by Diplomat. Mr. Jayapanda wrote, India's silence is strategic autonomy taken to its logical conclusion. The Wire argued otherwise, that strategic autonomy is meaningless. Germany is refusing to join the US naval coalition. Britain is also kind of apprehensive about it. The global south is not unanimously behind Washington. And then we all know what President Trump is. So where are we headed? Is multipolarity really going to happen? Or it's a good ideological thing, but the reality is going to be that we are going to align with the US. Everybody in the world is going to surrender.
I think that at least in the short term, we are in for a very unstable world. And I don't see that any sensible thing is going to come out of it. Even if this war stops, there will be others which are happening. At any given time, there were 60, 70 conflicts that can just conflagrate. Russia-Ukraine war is still very much playing out. Gaza is still not resolved. Libya is still not settled. Iraq is still on throes. Lebanon is having its own problems. So Sudan, Yemen, all those. So there are plenty of hotspots in the region around us. On the other hand, President Trump wants to grab Greenland, wants to grab Panama, do this or that, all kinds of things. So as long as there is a crass encroachment over sovereignty of the countries, even if in thought, you can't have multipolarity. How? Who's going to stand up to protect you?
So is it a time for...
It's a time for countries to try to bury the differences and come together, especially the global south. Because that is the one that gives you a certain leverage together. Divided house will have a problem.
So is it the time for being a statesman and advocate?
That's for India to do it.
So you think India should be a statesmanship, professing strategic autonomy, or it's better to be practically silent right now?
No. Then silent in what way? I mean, like, you have to start working on it, which we are doing it through many of the...
not make much noise about it. Not to...
There's no need. Countries are aligning with you in any case on that position. You see, I can tell you that many times in my life I've seen it. Like even when we went nuclear. I was at Oxford at the time.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if I told you this before, but when we did the tests, I was in the mess in the morning, and all these Europeans and Americans came and started pounding on me, saying, "Oh, India is such a poor country. Why do you have to do this, 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 this?"
They had the audacity to say that.
Yeah, they said like that at that time. It is 1997, 98. And then all the people from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia, we are very proud of India. Because India has done it. You can imagine the difference. So we already have that kind of an equity. And we need to just, work rightly on that. So our constituency is not the developed countries. Our constituency remains the global south. And that's where I think we need to work.
Do you think we stayed silent when Iran was bombed, sir?
Again, Indian people, you get to take them out. 170,000 people had to come out.
Okay. So we stayed silent when Iran was bombed, and Iran has guided our tankers safely, during this.
I thought you were talking of Iraq. But what I'm saying is here, in this time, silent in what sense? We issued a statement. We talked to all the leaders. We are trying to tell everybody. So you can't be more vocal than that.
So let me summarize our discussion, And there were, I really want a binary answer from you, And I know it may be not the best way of engaging with the diplomatic, and pardon me for that, 4 days it took us to condole the death. You've explained all these points, but even then I'm summarizing them. 4 days we took condole the death. As a BRIC nation, we have not made any strong condemnation. As an SCO, the organization has been quiet. In that sense, don't you think we have been silent, whereas Iran has allowed our tankers to pass through? Who do you think needed more the other one? India needed Iran more, or Iran needed India more?
As I told you, that this region has an existential importance for us. So, means we depend for our oil and gas. We depend for fertilizers. We depend on for our safety or security of our people, which is most important for us. We have our investments in these countries. We have historic civilization relationships. So therefore, what is the end objective? End objective is that the war should stop. Any further escalation of this war will be disastrous for the region, for the world, and for India. So that's where we are. We are not the onlooker, like some country from Latin America. We are directly involved in this. We are directly being impacted by it. You know it. Every day, everybody watches it. So far, we have been able to get the things moving correctly. And it is no country. Do you think Iran is just doing it for the... If it was not convinced that India is the right partner, that they will just allow to do that? They don't have to please us to issue good statements.
Definitely.
They understand, and we are talking to them all the time. We have to find a way to do it. You can't make the Americans understand. President Trump might suddenly think of claiming the victory and walk off. But the damage is done.
So do you see this war unfortunately spiraling into a Ukraine-Russia war kind of a scenario
I hope not. It will be far more disastrous. Far more disastrous.
for the world?
For the world. Economies.
So because just recently, Iran has also talked about, I'm forgetting the name of the strait, but it's bordering Djibouti. You know,
In the Horn of Africa, yes,
Yes,
Bab el
sir.
Mandab.
So, exactly. So
You see, the Houthis are sitting there in Bab el Mandab. So far, Houthis have not been activated in this war. And they always support Iran. So they are the backup for the Iranians. Hezbollah is fighting Israel
so is Hamas.
quite strong. Hamas is more or less
Chota mota.
decimated, very little. Iraq militias have started fighting there also. Now the Houthis will only fight when they have to block the whole thing. So that's a very disastrous kind of a thing.
So right now,
You see, the thing is for the Iranians is that they are here for survival of the country at the moment. They are fighting for their survival.
there's no right or wrong.
So
We will
for
do-
that, they will see the day after, if there is any day after. So today they are fighting for their survival. That's their approach. We can't fight with that. Only thing we can do is create conditions whereby the situation does not come to this pass that there is a blindfolded warfare where you destroy everything. I'm going under, so I'll let everybody go under.
So what's your prediction as a diplomat, as an analyst of this war? I hope it's not the Ukraine-Russia way, but then and there have been of lately announcements that we are having a conversation, it's going to get over and so on, right? When you see it from a distance,
You see, the thing is that if it is going to be what Americans are trying to get out of it, that is abject surrender of Iran, it will not happen. All the conditions that they have placed are virtually that you give up everything that you have. You don't have a choice.
so both, in fact, do you think there's a sanity in any of them placing any kind of a condition?
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. The kind of conditions they are
Both
there.
the
If you
parties.
read the conditions, both parties, I mean, it's like maximalist position.
Correct.
Normally in negotiations, when maximalist positions get watered down, that's
Correct.
precisely what happened before.
Correct.
But this time they are in a maximalist position at a point where you are at war. So if it doesn't succeed, that means you'll continue the war.
So please educate me on one thing, and this is something I was asked to specifically ask you. Is there a legal provision, just the way we have Geneva Conventions, for example? They may or may not be practiced by law, but is there a provision like the way they have said that there's a reparations and there's
Yeah.
is there that
No,
kind of
because
a
it
provision?
is a given
Yeah.
that the Americans and Israelis attacked Iran.
Right.
Right. Now, in that sense, they can invoke that clause. But that's why they are asking.
So these clauses exist.
Yeah, they do.
I thought that
but-
these are whims and fancies.
No, it's not whims and fancies because
Okay.
the destruction is happening. It happens every time, but it is not paid or whatever it is.
Exactly, sir. I do.
Like what the Americans are doing. Now, you go to the Russia-Ukraine war. The Americans and the Europeans had confiscated some $360 billion of Russia.
Yeah.
Right?
They
They
they're
said
frozen
that
in
we
the
want to
accounts.
use it to reconstruct
Correct.
Ukraine.
Correct.
Like, so that is there. Russians are saying that that's violation of the rule, of the law. And that's a red line for them. So people, these kind of things come up always. They may say $1 trillion, they may say $500 billion. That's an arbitrary figure.
Right.
But what will happen is that Americans have already told them all sanctions will go. No secondary sanction, no state back sanctions, this, that. So they're already ready to give you that. Plus, a lot of money of the Iranians is stuck in the West. They want that money to come back to them. So all that, this is how it will play out eventually.
So one thing is there. I mean, if you really look at it, Iranians have been under sanctions for so many years.
Yeah, they've
And-
survived.
And it's been 25 days that the world is seeing this war, and we are sweating.
Well, I think that they underestimated Iran. And this happens when you don't understand the terrain and the people. And this is unfortunately true of the Americans. You see, brute power cannot win you anything. You can inflict destruction, but it cannot win you a war. And as I said last time, I don't know if I did, that all these superpowers have not been able to win a single big war.
You did mention that.
Yes, it's a fact. So if you think that they're going to win this war in a literal sense of the term, I doubt.
So thanks a lot. I mean, this was a good discussion that we had on the scenario and the stance of Indian diplomacy during the last 25 days and overall the relations that we have. I know really I'm very worried and concerned, and I want to understand what could be the post-war scenarios. Primarily, I'm asking that because as you've been an ambassador in Libya, you've seen that war. Now, there have been multiple scenarios which I see. I see a possibility of a pro-Western successor government, a Libya-style fragmentation, maybe a regime survival or adaptation, or the fourth option, I don't know if anybody has spoken to you about that or not, is about Iran going during the Shah regime kind of an ideology, where they're absolutely, which may or may not be good to India, to the world, but which is coming more from the Soviet-influenced ideology. Also, if you see after Iraq war, the war operations were done in 25 years, and US kept on struggling after that. And then we had all this ISIS and factions coming in. Frankly, it was opening the Pandora's box. How do you see Iran shaping up, and what could be the possible outcome?
You see, in this particular war, I think that there are several objectives, because there is no clear war strategy on the part or exit strategy on the part of the aggressors, I would say. So both of them are coming up with very, very difficult conditions for other side to agree to, right? So which means very clearly that each one wants to extract the maximum mileage. So as President Trump said that he has been talking to Bagilov and Galibaf, the Speaker of the Assembly, and he considers him a great leader or something like that. Foreign Minister Argachi is also there. And he doesn't mind the ongoing presence of we don't know where is he, but presence of the Ayatollah, new Ayatollah, Mustafa. So I think that chances are the regime will remain. Mm-hmm. And it will be much more weakened, but it will remain. But if they are able to extract a better mileage for themselves through negotiations, not necessarily through war, then it could be possible that you could see an Iran which is not totally against the West or this. This could happen. The Iran also is not a monolith country. You have leaders of all kinds in the country. You have the moderates, less conservative. And so whoever comes to power, we can't say today who will be there, how many of them will survive, because Israel does have solid intelligence on them and can eliminate, which is what they try to do. But simply by eliminating or decapitating the leadership, whether it's military or political, has not served the purpose. Because the Iranian strategy is that, as I call, is kind of a Raktbij strategy. One dies, others are ready to come and take the place. That's what they have put in place since last June. So that's why it's difficult to say what kind of a government will happen. But all said and done, the reality is after the war, Iran will be economically far more weakened. People will be more disgruntled. And when there's some kind of stability, you might see more protests, which will be, of course, supported by external. So once again, you might have a very difficult kind of unstable scenario.
Very unfortunate.
Which is Iraq, Libya, or these countries, what is happening. And this is the track record of the Western interventions, unfortunately. I hope not. Hope it will depend on the Iranian people that they will continue to think of their country first, being a civilizational power. But this can happen, and that can be the worst case scenario, in my view, if the country remains unstable for too long. It's too rich. It needs to be integrated into the global domain, and that will benefit the whole world. Now, another problem that the Iranians will face is with their neighbors, Arab neighbors, whom they've been hitting hard. So very likely you will have a new kind of a security architecture. But they are also not very enthused by the idea of Israeli hegemony in the region, which is what the objective of the Israel as well as US is, that the supremacy of Israeli
Should
prevail there. So we are looking at a very unstable kind of a scenario in my view, which I don't like personally. Not that it was stable before, but at least this war has proved two things. One is that the Iranians are very resilient people and they are not a cakewalk. And second is that when you come into a war without any exit strategy, you are in for greater trouble.
So my final question for today. In your analysis, what was the objective of this war? Was it the disintegration of the axis of resistance, right? The Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthis, and so on. Was it for oil? Was it for really disarmament, or avoiding the nuclear threat that Israel had? What is it that you believe rather than what has been stated?
You see, you should remember that there are two actors in this, attacking the third. One is United States, the other is Israel. US is the bigger partner, but partner without any strategic objective in this particular war, in my view. And not because you're making it up, but because they did not have any idea. They said, oh, there is going to be threat. Now, three people talking three different things. So, the most credible, in my view, was what Rubio said. That since Israel was determined to go and attack Iran, we went along, which was later on modified. Then they said to remove its navy, permanent threat, missile threats, or its the nuclear threat, missile threats, and somehow make it a timid country. That was basically the objective. And that is nothing farther than the truth, basically, that they can achieve.
It just goes back, so one of their intelligence senior executive has put up papers, has resigned, saying that there was no imminent threat from Iran. So we're going back to...
No, Joe Kent said clearly that it was
Kent.
because of Israel that we went into the war, and that's why he resigned. So it was very clear, because Netanyahu told them that, and he somehow, when you are gullible, for whatever reason, and you have this blind power, then you obviously can make mistakes. This is a huge mistake.
We are headed back to the world of the narratives of weapons of mass destruction, or something that happened in 2003, sir.
You saw in Iraq what happened. They manufactured it.
They admitted it. Tony Blair admitted it.
So these are things come out later.
Let sanity prevail.
But let sanity prevail. That's the only thing I always say, and I hope that all sides see reason in de-escalation. I mean, there will not be a love affair between Iran and Israel for long, even though, if you remember, in 79, they were all on the same side.
I had those questions, sir, but then I had to respect.
No, they were all on the same side of the United
States.
States.
On the same side.
Yeah. But today, of course, and the war will not serve the purpose that the United States probably. They thought they can control China's oil.
Because maybe they don't know the purpose.
This is precisely the case. That's why I said, if you don't have an exit strategy, you don't have a strategy what you're going to achieve out of this war, or any other excursion that you do, then you keep on manufacturing something every day. That means you're shifting objectives, shifting goals, and shifting priorities. So, and then you can't manage anything. So then you decide to find an off-ramp. Let's hope they find the off-ramp faster than waiting for some more destruction to happen.
Ambassador, thank you so much, because I couldn't have gathered this knowledge anywhere else by reading so many books. But this was really awesome. This clears a lot of clutter. And pardon me if I was too direct in certain questions, but then those are general inquisitiveness.
Yeah.
Right. And thanks for coming over and educating us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.